Welcome back to my channel. This is Sim and Stitches, and on today's tutorial I'm going to be drafting a bustier top.
This is going to be for a dress, so it's a gown. It's going to be having a joining. That is, there will be the other part, which is the bottom part, the skirt part of this gown. So my length for this is going to be 16 inches. That is 1 inch after my natural curve measurement. So I took all the length measurements. This is my shoulder to high bust. This is my shoulder to bust point. This is my shoulder to under bust, my shoulder to natural curve, and then the length of my top. I added 1 inch to the upper part. Now, after that, I took my shoulder measurement and I took my armhole measurement. You can watch my previous video on how to draft a basic top pattern. Very easy and simple. You would love it. All right, so the next thing I'm going to be doing now to get a bustier is for me to, the bustier is a dart, is a type of dart, bustier dart. So that is what we are doing today. So we're going to be taking, dividing our nipple to nipple measurement by 2, and I'm going to measure it all the way through the length that I've taken. So my nipple to nipple measurement after dividing by 2 is 4. So I'm going to mark the 4 inches all through. So I have 4 inches here, 4 inches all the way. All right, so I have it there, and I'm going to be connecting it with a straight line. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be taking now is right at my under bust line. I'm going to be taking 1 inch on the right side and 1 inch on the left side. 1 inch here and 1 inch here. So I'm going to take that all through to the length. So 1 inch on the right side and 1 inch on the left side. So I'll connect it together to give me a straight line. So I have it there. Then I'm going to mark it at the top of my high bust line. I'm going to be marking 1 inch at the right and 1 inch at the left too. Now I'm going to be joining this to the bust point line, right on the bust point. That's where I'm going to be joining it, and I'm going to be using my curved ruler. So I have it that way, and here also I'll do the same thing. All right, the next thing I'll do now is to take my under bust round measurement. At the under bust line, I'm going to be taking the round measurement for my under bust. Now, you know, I already marked 2 inches for my dart allowance. So whatever my under bust is, I'm going to be adding these 2 inches to it. So my under bust measurement is 31. So 31 divided by 4 would give me 7.75. 7.75. So I'm going to be adding 7.2 inches to my 7.75. So that will be 9.75. So here is my 9.75 inches. And then the same thing I'm going to be doing to my natural curve line. So at the natural curve line, I have 31 as well. So the same measurement, 9.75. Don't forget, the reason why I'm adding the 2 inches is because I already marked 2 inches here, one at the right and one at the left, which I'm going to be using. I'm going to be cutting out as my dart excesses. So, but I'm going to have to replace it back in the measurement. I'm cutting this out. I'm cutting this out now, but then I would replace it back in the measurement so that I'll be able to have the accurate measurement for my round measurements. That is my natural curve roundness. Because if I mark this like this, and I mark 7.5 here, these 2 inches that I deducted is going to be reduced from here, so my measurements will not be correct. So because this place is going to be cut off, that is why I'm replacing it at the sides. So 9.75 again, I mark. It is after I've marked this, I'm going to be adding seam allowances. This does not include seam allowance. All right, so the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to check for the difference between my under bust and my bust measurement. So my bust measurement is 36, which is 9. So plus allowance that I'm going to be adding to it, I'm going to be adding 2 inches allowance to my 9 inch. So that will be 11 inches. So if I mark my 11 inches here, this is my 11 inches here. Now, if you deduct the 7.75, I'm going to be adding 1 inch for seam allowance. 1 inch for seam allowance. So to the under bust line. So I have 9.75 plus 1 inch. That will give me 10.75. I have it here. So I still have 0.25 that will make it to be equal with the 11 that I marked at the top. So I'm going to be using that 0.25 to do my under bust tightening. The excess that I have here, I'm going to be removing it here so that it will align together here. So what I just did now is the excess that I have, the difference between my bust and my under bust is what I'm going to be using to tighten up my under bust measurement. My bust measurement is 39 and my under bust measurement is 31. So after dividing it, I have 0.5 inch as the difference between the bust and the under bust. So I'm going to be marking that 0.5 inch here. Now, there are two ways you can do it. You can decide to mark the 0.5 all through from here, or you can decide to divide it equally on both sides. I am going to be dividing it equally on both sides. That means that 0.5 divided by 2 is quarter of an inch. That's 0.25. So on this, under that line, I will mark 0.25. That's to the left side. And on the right side as well, I'm going to mark 0.25. So it is this line I will now connect to the main line here. Now, this is going to be my new dart line. I hope you can see this. This is going to be my new dart line for both sides. All right, so what I'm going to be doing now is to take my French curve again, and I'll place it carefully like this, and then I'll mark a curve that way. Now, if you look at this, this is already looking like a bust line, like it, that is, the curve of the bust is already forming out. Then here as well, I'll do the same. You just have to be careful and make sure that they both align, the lines aligns together. So this is the correct one. So this place I'm going to be cutting out. This shaded part is what I'll be cutting out from my bustier. So what I have to do now is to join the lines that I've marked together. So from my bust measurement, okay, I'm going to add my 1 inch allowance to this. Right, so here you have it, and with this you are good. So this is good. So for this design that I'm making, this top is going to be having a sweetheart neckline, so I'm just going to mark it right like that. The next thing I'll do is to carve out my armhole, so connecting it here. All right. And there you have your bustier dart. It is very easy to make, very simple and easy, straightforward and direct. So let me quickly do a recap of what I have just explained. I took my basic top measurement, and then I took my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 4 inches, and then I marked it all the way. And then after that, I took my basic, that 1 inch at each side, 1 inch here, 1 inch here, from the under bust downward, and also from the eye bust, I took the 1 inch from the left and 1 inch from the right. And then I connected the basic darts together, and then I also connected the high bust dart to the bust point line. Then after doing that, I determined the difference between my bust and my under bust, and that difference I added it to my dart space here around my underbust, the underbust that I took, and then I connected it together with the initial dart line that I drew. So it gave me this curved, or let me say slant line instead of a straight line. So the SS is what I'm going to be cutting out, and this is what I'm going to be using for my bust, my bustier dart. So for the top, this is going to be the center piece. I'm going to be cutting this twice, cut 2. I'll cut the side piece to twice. And after that, I'm going to be attaching my hairstay to give it firm structure. I'm going to be attaching 3 layers of hairstay to make it firm. I'm not going to be using any wadding for this. I'm just going to be using my hairstay, and I'm going to be using my ready-made bra cup to pad it. I hope you enjoy watching today's tutorial. If you have any question regarding this tutorial, please leave a comment for me. Leave the question in the comment section. I'll definitely answer you. If you have not watched my previous videos, please check through and watch. Thank you very much for joining. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you very much for coming back. And if this is the first time you are watching my video, thank you. Please like this video and also share. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one.